Hey, my name is Joe.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And this is the best of Gen X.
We are in our 40s.
And we're siblings.
We'll talk about adulting in a world so different from the one we grew up in.
So excuse us while we save a generation.
One episode at a time.
Let's go.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Mary Beth.
How goes it?
It goes okay. I do have a couple corrections from our last episode that I'm really upset at myself about.
I knew you couldn't resist.
It bothered me for the last 10 or so days. I had trouble sleeping and eating. I hate myself. Okay, for all of those that listened to our glorious Saved by the Bell episode, I was so excited about it. I actually took kind of lead on it. I was that pumped, and I was doing these character breakdowns, and I was so proud of myself because I did them just off the cuff. I didn't look them up, did them myself. So after the episode gets posted, I'm like, shit, did not include AC Slater. Yeah, so laugh it up. I hope everybody noticed that. And I said, Mary Beth, did you already post it? Yes. Don't worry about it because we talk about him anyway. So I want to make sure everybody knows I love AC Slater as the character. And I did leave him off the character breakdown on accident. El Accidente.
Yes.
So that's one. His dad was Major Slater. And of course I said General Slater. I mean, everybody knows that.
Amateur
hour over here. And then the last one I think is kind of funny. I think at the end I say anticlimactic.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm the last person in the world to like mess a word like that up. That really drove me crazy. Instead of anticlimactic. What was I thinking? What was I doing?
No. But despite that, well, we haven't yet to be retweeted by Mario Lopez. So he's not dead to me yet.
Okay, well, I don't feel so bad then.
Okay.
Right now. Maybe that's why he didn't. Maybe he actually listened to it. He's like, well, if you're going to leave me off, I'm not going to retweet your ass.
Probably so. That makes sense. But some good news about our podcast, just in general. I want to say that
I need something good.
I
something
looked
positive.
at some of our stats last week. And as of last week, we had over 500 downloads. That's including our YouTube channel, which we don't really advertise, but it's there for later use. We hope to make these videos. Anyway, so I was pleased with that number.
That's awesome.
And also, I was excited to find out that we have been downloaded in 3 different countries, in US, Canada, and the UK, and 63 different cities total. So it was really cool to see these random cities in Texas and Ohio and California. And it's like, wow, are these our relatives?
Are we global? Prestige worldwide.
We are global. I mean, apparently. But I don't know. It lifted my spirits. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better about what I just told everybody. Sure.
Well,
so thank you. You're the statistical wizard of the group.
Well, you started with a fail. I'll start with one as well.
Hey, that reminds me of The Office. Fail.
And he's like, that was a triple.
No, but listen, I'm gonna let you do that. But I was really bothered by those errors. I was really, really bothered by it. Hey, I'm better than that.
Well, and plus, it was a very beloved topic.
And how dare you, by the way, allow me to conduct such a poor performance on such an important topic? Okay, I'm done.
I was secretly wishing for your demise right across the table.
Now, listen, I literally just got over this. Okay. Like, I'm starting to eat properly. I'm starting to get some decent sleep. Oh God, for all of those that were really excited about that episode, I'm truly sorry.
Well, okay. Well, maybe this will make you feel better. So, I've had a bad sore throat and low-grade fever and just kind of overall icky feeling for the past 2 weeks or so. And I decided on day 3 that I wanted to just go to the little clinic in...
the ones right there in town.
Right. Mm-hmm. I thought I'll get in there and see if they can give me something, because Josh and I had plans for the weekend and I didn't want to be sick.
Trying to get yourself right.
Sure. So, okay, so I tested negative for all the things, but she did prescribe me something that would make me clear up all the junk, whatever. Hopefully make me feel better. So as I'm leaving, I'm getting in the truck and I'm looking at my, I guess what you'd call exit papers when you leave a doctor's appointment. Mm-hmm. And I was reading my list of symptoms. Now, it basically says something to the effect of presenting, and then it lists your symptoms, or suffering from. Mm-hmm. And it said obesity. And I thought, what the I came in here for a sore throat.
Did you clench your fist and like chest up to that doctor?
I took my chubby little fist and I punched downward. I was so offended.
God damn the BMI charts.
I mean, I came in for a sore throat. Is it really necessary to write that one down there? And by the way, I identify as fluffy. So
listen.
So that was a bit of a fail in my life.
I can appreciate your concern about this, but I want to make you feel a little bit better. So about 5 or so years ago, you remember when I got kind of in crazy shape, really for no other reason than I just want to be in shape when I was 40, when I hit 40.
Yes.
I was doing the meal preps. I was doing the supplements. You remember how lean I got. I could see veins, and my BMI was like super, like it would have said I was almost obese. Mm-hmm. So it's just, you take that for what it's worth.
Oh, I appreciate that, but I am.
Well, no, but I'm just, you know what I'm saying. I mean,
I can see myself in the mirror.
Even when you're thicker, like muscular, even it's off. It's like it's not something I would really pay a lot of attention.
Obesity,
put a lot of
that
stock
word
in.
kind of stings. I prefer fluffy, or as Mallory used to call me when she was little, squishy.
Or happy.
Well, let's get into this episode. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we made being unsupervised cool long before that cute little Culkin boy bounced his way into our hearts with his breakout role in Home Alone. How, you ask?
Kevin McAllister.
Because ours was the least parented, least nurtured of all generations of the last century, a group of lost children whose name is even one of the many qualifying identities of Generation X itself. We're talking about the Latchkey Kids.
The Latchkey Kids.
What is a latchkey kid?
Well, a latchkey kid is the kid that would come home, from school or otherwise, and be unsupervised by a parent, right? So a kid that was home alone for an extended period of time without supervision.
Yes, and the term latchkey, it's no ordinary key. Mm-mm. It refers specifically to a key that opens an outside door.
Right, like a house or apartment or something like that.
Well, I was curious, and I wanted to start off with just some baseline truths, right? So I consulted the interwebs and just found out that what led to this social phenomenon was a simultaneous rise of dual income and single income households. So it makes sense, more women obviously were entering the workforce, and there were various reasons for that. Some people did by choice. Some women did because they had to, because the value of the dollar had dropped. But also the steady uptick in divorce rates, which would explain the single income households. I just thought it was weird that dual income and single income households were on the rise at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right. So women entering the workforce, the uptick in divorce rates, and then likely also out of the surge of just out of wedlock births, not divorces, that led to single moms having kids, whatever. And that, I found myself diving deeper and deeper. I would read one statistic and then it would make me want to look something else up. I was trying to put all these pieces together from various sites. And we're going to have to put a pin in this. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm going to drop some data on you.
Okay. But this doesn't surprise me, by the way, because you are a thinker.
I am. I'm just so curious. And so it led me to this bit of information. In 1960, some 5% of all births were to unmarried mothers. Now, that's 5% in 1960. Now, 1960 and the 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years later, you're talking about birth control available nationwide, right? So it's widely available a couple years later. So that number rose to 11% by 1970. And by 1990, it had jumped to 28%. By 2000, the share of births to unmarried mothers was 33%.
Wow.
And since 2008, it's remained at 41%. So riddle me this. How in tarnation do we explain the nationwide access to birth control and the simultaneous just bomb of kids born out of wedlock? I thought birth control was meant to control.
It is. And it was. However, my gut reaction is a little bit of rebellion. A lot of times just because you have access to something that's supposed to help you doesn't mean you leverage it.
Well, I think this would be, that's why I said let's put a pin in
Okay,
this. But
so I won't solution for it.
But one of these days, we're going to do an episode that covers some of these topics, because this is second wave feminism, fighting for the right birth control, the workforce, yada, yada. And based on this very startling statistic that I just read, it apparently did us and our society zero favors.
Zilch.
Zero favors at all.
I think there's some stupidity, some carelessness, but I'm not going to solution for it.
Well, anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's another time, another conversation for another time. But I did find out that in 1984, a survey estimated that there were 2.1 million latchkey kids.
Okay, I have seen that stat as well. And I think since 2000, it has more than doubled, and now there's 7.7 million latchkey kids. 7.7 million.
I read that too, and it struck me as so...
That's a big number.
Well, it surprised me, and I thought, well, maybe that's just the population difference. More people, more children.
Would make sense.
But it's not. I mean, the population of children from 1985 to now is only about a 10 million difference.
Okay,
So I just found it really crazy that, we're the latchkey kid generation, but it looks like we've got a brand new generation of latchkey kids staring us in the face.
It's like that percentage rise kind of outpaced actual population.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I read that the recent surge was due to COVID, where some parents lost their jobs. There were all kinds of layoffs, and
Let's just blame everything on COVID.
we should
Everything just needs to be
Forever
blamed
and
on
ever.
forever and ever,
and for all time.
Like you're gonna mention something within this podcast, and it's gonna totally be unrelated to like health or public health or COVID, and I'm gonna blame it on COVID.
Okay, agreed.
Yeah. So sorry. Did you have more to?
No.
Okay. I want you to appreciate this. So when we started talking about latchkey kids and that term in general, the first thing I thought of, I think you're gonna I want to see how well you know me. Like, what do you think the first thing I thought of was?
Latchkey.
You
Professor
ready?
Lasky.
No, you ready?
What?
Well, at least I'm not a horrible little latchkey kid who gets suspended from school. He goes, so. One of our favorites, Dwight Schrute from The Office. He's talking about Married to the Sun. Well, at least I'm not a horrible little latchkey kid who gets suspended from school. So, and then he looks over at Angela, and she's like, "Yes."
I'm disappointed in myself for not getting that.
Yeah, I
one.
really didn't like. I don't think I really. I mean, I'd heard the term before, but now every time I hear it, I think of that episode. So anyway.
Yeah, because we didn't really identify as latchkey kids at the time.
I didn't want to cut you off earlier, but you started going down that path of the term, what it really means, and then our generation, being called that, but we didn't call that. Like, that's exactly what I thought of when you were talking about that. I'm like, well, we didn't really know that term existed. It just was what it was.
Right.
Kids were in that situation or that circumstance. So anyway, but I think it really became, commonplace in the 70s and 80s. To really, like you said, kind of describe us, the valued members of Generation X.
Of course.
Like you said, we were the least parented, least nurtured. And by the way, we were the least parented, least nurtured generation in history. However, that does not mean that we weren't parented well and we weren't nurtured when it was,
Yeah.
at time. That's not what that means.
Right. And I would also add to that I would give you a little pushback because in my intro I said generations of the last century because hey, I'm sure going back further, kids working on the farm couldn't go to school. Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, 12-year-olds were helping on the tobacco
So-
farm, smoking it themselves.
So we're not going to call ourselves that of all time.
No, absolutely not. But
I mean, you know how they taught kids to swim?
probably just threw them in.
They just tossed them into the pond.
Right. So, and today that would be like blasphemy.
So let's not victimize this
No,
whole
no, no.
generation.
And I really just mentioned that because I don't want our parents or anybody in our parents' generation to think, well, wait a minute, we parented our kids, we nurtured our
Same.
kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they did those things when it was time to do those things. But what this is saying is kids had to be left alone for a little bit of time, like a period of time during the day or whatever. Didn't mean the parents didn't come home and love on their kids and nurture their kids and
Right.
you know, but because of this sort of phenomenon,
And daycare wasn't really a common thing.
there was some, but it wasn't to the extent it is today.
Babysitters weren't as easy to come by.
Yeah, so listen, I just want to make sure that our parents know, hey, listen, you did a great job.
I know. I feel like when we talk about these sort of things, we have to preface it so that mom listening, I love you, Mom.
Yeah.
I love you, Dad.
These parents
I love you, Dad.
Yeah, I love you, Dad. These parents at least nurtured? What?
Yeah,
No,
because
it's-
I was thinking that same thing earlier today. I thought it must be difficult for a boomer parent to hear these things about our generation, you know,
Well,
especially.
and we'll get into it, but just like it's going to be hard for us to hear things about our kids' generation. And
Oh, I've made my peace with it.
well,
I've made my peace.
I
with
haven't.
It.
I'm still beating myself up like I did over the Saved by the Bell corrections.
I've made my peace with it, man.
Okay. So anyway, I mean, so I agree with you on the, you know, it being commonplace and sort of like the tag of least parented, least. I agree with all that. I thought this was kind of funny, and I didn't hear this term back then either, but I find it kind of funny. They were referred to as day orphans. Kind of sounds sad. It's kind of got a negative sort of connotation to it, right? Day orphans.
Yeah, that's. You might as well just call them like the neglected,
Right. That's what I was thinking.
ignorance and want.
Right. Does the word day in front of that make it sound any better? Like day orphans.
It makes it. Yeah. Okay.
But listen, I think we will get into it some more, but I think it did allow for parents to make more money. So you're welcome, Mom and Dad. Because they didn't have to worry about the day, like you mentioned, the daycare and the childcare and all that stuff. I mean, it allowed the parents.
And bringing home a second
Yeah, I mean, it
income.
allowed the parents to go out there and make some bread, stack that cash.
Yes, because they were a hardworking generation.
Absolutely. And they pride themselves on that.
Yes, and I think we learned the same.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's interesting. Our situation as latchkey kids, I remember that there was a very specific reason that prompted Mom to go back to college and finish her degree because she had stopped, I think, after her freshman year. And I may not get all the details correct here.
She already
but
told me you drove her nuts. That's why she had to leave
Yeah,
the house.
that's why
She had to
she-
get out of the house, she told me.
She had to. Well, I know that she stopped, I think after her first year. She became a wife and mother, right? So, and she always worked. She always had a job outside the home, but these were part-time jobs. And I remember Mom telling me a long time ago that when Dad was 27 or 28, that's when his intestinal problems really began. And he, at one point, when he was 27, 28, went to the hospital. It was looking really bad. And I remember Mom telling me that that's the moment where she was like, because she would have had all three of us by then.
Yeah, because that's right when I was born.
Yeah.
When he
And
was
so
27, 28.
exactly. So yeah, she said she was so scared by that experience that she said to herself, if anything ever happened to him, I need to be able to take care of my kids. So that's what made her go back to college.
Wow, I didn't really know that.
Right. So she went to finish her degree and get into the teaching profession. And she also went to great lengths to make that happen with three
I do
small
remember
kids.
that.
Because as we said, daycare wasn't as common. It wasn't easy to get babysitters. she actually would take us to class with her.
I remember those times. I remember being in a class with her.
Now, that should tell you right there the difference between generations. I mean, can you imagine? We were really well behaved. All we needed was a coloring book and some crayons. And we would sit there quietly. But you imagine like a little, can you imagine a 22, 23-year-old mom
No.
taking her, little toddler to college, to a college class with her now? The kids now,
No.
like even the tantrums, like even our tantrums were controlled.
Oh, yeah.
Now it'd be like, fuck you, mom.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The 4-year-old screams.
Or they call them by their first name. Fuck you, Meredith.
Fuck you, Meredith. In the middle of mommy's lecture in her intro to female empowerment class.
Right. You call your mother Meredith? No, I mean, we certainly were.
Yeah, so she took us to school with her.
I was going to say, I mean, we certainly had our moments at home where we were, through tantrums, but I think in a public setting like that, we just knew better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, my overall point was that for mom to have to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I think we all. Even
And kids today can barely get themselves out of bed with no responsibilities but to go to school.
Yeah.
And
because she
worked her.
I think I was only
tail
like
off.
4 or 5, but I still remember being in the classroom in some of her summer classes, and I think I ended up having one of her professors when I was in college. But anyway.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that first she had to do that, and then once she began teaching, that's when we kind of became latchkey kids.
Exactly.
Dad came to teaching later because he was an insurance salesman first. So I just think it's funny that, yes, our parents are both teachers. Why in the world would we be latchkey kids? Because they had the same schedule. But mom had a hella long commute.
Right, 45 minutes or something.
Oh my gosh.
Way.
For the first many years of her teaching career. And then dad, once he got into teaching, had a very hectic coaching schedule. So that's why we can say our parents are both teachers, but we still had to spend
Right.
time
He wasn't
alone.
coming home when we were coming home on the bus. It was he stayed after for practices, and he was there till 5 o'clock or whatever it was. Yep.
Do you remember anything about being home alone? That much?
Oh yeah, I do.
I don't.
I mean,
for some
bits and
reason.
pieces of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Not every little single detail.
I thought
but,
I would remember more of it.
I remember the first time that I ever noticed, and I wasn't even thinking about us, like me and you and our sister. I remember the first time I ever noticed on the bus when somebody got off the bus and they would go and either hit their, their garage code, or you saw them get a key under the mat and open their door.
Yeah.
And if they opened the garage, there were no cars there. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, that cat's home alone. Like, I wonder what they're doing. Like, what are they expected to do? Are they just chilling out? Like, I was thinking about all these things while I was sitting on the bus. I was like,
It's interesting. I do actually remember a similar experience on the bus, but I would notice the kids who got off the bus, walked toward their driveway, and there's their mom.
there was a girl or two on
And
my
I
bus
would be
that had
like,
that.
oh.
Yeah, and the mom would like be in the robe
Yeah.
at like 3 o'clock.
And hey, to be fair, the reason I told you guys why my mom was inspired to finish her degree and to actually work full time, my dad's health scare, I know, and I have not asked her this, but I know if given the choice, she would have loved nothing more but to stay home with us.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
So it
she
wasn't
did it
about
out
that.
of necessity because So anyway, but it always made me feel like, oh, I wish mom were.
I know, and as kids, you don't think outside of the box enough to be our parents need.
We're selfish little bastards.
Right.
We're
like mom and dad are both working for a reason, but we need you there on the porch when we get off the bus.
I do have one memory when it first started, and I must have been 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. So Jen was 5th grade. So I guess a 5th grader, is fine to be in charge. And I remember each of us having chores. I don't remember a lot of rules, but I remember mom showing me how to load and unload the dishwasher safely. And I remember very specifically, I must have been 8 years old. And I remember her showing me, this is how you put the knives in. You put them in facing down so that when you unload it, you're not grabbing the blade.
She did not show me these things.
That's because you did not have to do the dishes.
This is true. Thank you, Mom.
And I don't know what your job was or if you had one.
My job was to get a Debbie snack and sit in front of the TV Indian style and watch a show. Saved by the Bell.
Probably Saved by the Bell.
Baseball game, a day game, whatever it was.
Or to play on your basketball goal out.
That or video games. I had the video game stuff.
But other than that, I honestly don't remember. I don't remember them sitting us three down and saying, okay, now don't answer the door to strangers. Mm-mm. Don't go to a friend's.
Yeah,
I don't remember any
understood.
of that.
I don't feel like we ever had lists, for the most part.
Well, I just don't remember that conversation being had. But I remember knowing what to do and what not to do. Oh. But when you think about it, how scary, how in the world did we survive, Joe? How did we survive?
I don't know, because Jennifer was 4 years older than me, 2 years older than you. And if she was young enough to be home with us after school, she immediately would retreat and hibernate to her cave room downstairs in the basement.
Wanting nothing to do with us.
She would shut the door, lock it, and then she would blast her music up loud. So it's like you got what
we're talking about little kids staying home alone. Obviously, we couldn't use the stove. So we were like, I don't know, fueled on Debbie snacks and microwavable pizza.
Yeah.
And this was the same era as stranger danger. I mean, we didn't know first aid. What if we started choking? Like, the only thing we knew how to do was stop, drop, and roll. Like, that's the only thing we knew how to do. Like, how did we survive this? We didn't wear seatbelts.
Yeah, we were the no seatbelt generation. I feel like we were pretty versed in the 911 deal. I figure
By then we could have called 911, sure.
On our corded phone that attached to the kitchen wall.
But I'm thinking of Fern Street, like when we were first home alone. And we were young. Like I said, I was probably third grade. Jen was fifth.
Yeah, I was going to say she was 9, 10.
So you were in good hands with us, older sisters.
And this is nothing against
you. But I just don't know how nobody
right. I mean, this is nothing against you. I'm only saying it this way because you were closer in age to me. I always felt like when Jennifer was 9 or 10, she was a lot older than 9 or 10.
Oh yeah, she acted a lot.
So I guess from just speaking for myself, I never felt worried. Like
I didn't either.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't know that I would have felt worried if it was just me and you, or you and I. You know what I mean?
I don't remember being scared. That's another thing. I don't remember being scared or feeling abandoned.
Right.
Or,
I don't know if that was because we had some family around us at our old house. We had some aunts and uncles and.
We lived in very close proximity.
Close proximity. It was almost like a little compound. But then we had some good friends that Mom was close to down the street.
Road.
So maybe we just felt like we had enough. I don't know what the right word. Protection,
support,
security, support.
Yeah.
So maybe we just felt like we had that. But yeah, I mean, I just. But like going back to my comment about go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's just crazy to me that because I can't imagine. I don't know why, and maybe we can unpack this later in the episode, but I can't imagine leaving Mallory at those ages to fend for herself. And I'm just asking myself, and something struck me this morning when I'm thinking about this, like, how did we not burn the house down? And then I thought, oh, wait, I did. Now.
Oh, come on now.
No, here's what's crazy. You think... Okay, what's the funny thing people say when they leave kids alone? Don't burn the house down. Now, you would think that if it were going to happen, it would happen as a latchkey kid. I would have tried to cook something, burn the house down. No one's there.
I see your point now. It happened when we were older. We were driving.
Oh, no. It happened when I was a senior in high school while parents were home.
That's right. I was actually a sophomore. I keep thinking you're right.
While the parents were home. And because I've always been an overachiever, I started the fire so well that none of us, even the adults, could put it out on our own.
Way to go, Mary Beth. Mom warned me about you.
I just thought it was so funny. That hit me this morning like, wow, I didn't burn the house down as a latchkey kid. I did it as a senior with Mom and Dad home.
Gosh, but you're absolutely right. We could have broken bones. We could have destroyed walls. We could have, I don't know. We could have hurt other kids. I know one of our neighbors at our old house had like a 3 or 4-wheeler that I wrecked. But I mean, we could have went out and done more of that stuff.
And we lived right next to a very active set of train tracks.
Yes, it was not like a slow
We didn't live in a
It was
subdivision.
busy. Yeah, it was like busy. It was like in one of those older neighborhoods where there was cars coming in and out, trains, and
Like right in the middle of town.
yeah, the side of our yard was a train track. Crazy. Like we could have got our foot stuck in the train.
I know. I'm getting scared thinking about it.
like we could have got a snake bite in the cornfield next to. I mean, it's just.
I think we're answering our own question. Why did this affect our own parenting? But you had a point you wanted to bring
No,
up.
I was just going to go back to, I don't want to harp on it, but it was like, I wanted to just kind of give you my perspective on how my mind would wander when I would see those kids go into their homes alone after school. And my mind would always take me places like, what do they have to do until their parents come home? These are questions I'm asking myself. Like, what do they have to do until their parents come home? Do they have to feed the pets? Are they going to do some vacuuming? Are they going to start dinner? Are they going to pay some bills? Like, what are these kids expected to do for the 2 or 3 hours, that they're home alone? Because I never really thought about us. Like you said, I never really thought we were latchkey kids for a spell. I never thought about us. I was always thinking about what other kids had to go through.
Yeah.
Because what I had to do when I got in the door was just always like second nature and natural to me.
Your job was to have fun.
Yeah, but I was always just wondering, what does that kid got to do when he gets in there?
Yeah.
Does he get to just chill? Does he have to do home? Is he expected to do homework immediately? Because when he gets home, or when the parents get home, they're gonna check it.
Right.
It was always fascinating to me to think about what other kids had to experience. Yeah, I would just, like our Uncle Chuck did the PBS thing, so I was always jazzed up about hearing his voice on TV, or watching a Cubs game on a day game, or just something. I had no responsibility. Let's just put it that way. Zero responsibility. Thanks again, Mom and Dad. So yeah, but yeah, my mind just would wander at times and start thinking about,
I do know that the thing I probably hated most was the fighting. There was no one to protect you. No mom or dad, no referee. It was kill or be killed.
I have thought of this. I would get bored. Listen, okay, we know that back then it was like the bicycle generation where kids, you'd see 4 or 5 bicycles in the yards after school. So we definitely were part of that crowd in our neighborhood. But if for whatever reason we could not figure out a plan with the friends, I would get so bored. And I'm like, how can I pester these older sisters to where they would pay attention to me?
Right.
Because Dad wasn't home. He was working. So, I always had fun with Dad in the cul-de-sac throwing ball or whatever it was, hitting ball. But when he was not home, I was like, I would literally sit there. I'm fessing up now. I would literally sit there and I would watch you 5 feet away on the carpet watching TV. And I'm be thinking, this is horrible to say. I'm thinking to myself, how can I annoy her?
Wow.
What can I do to get her to understand that I'm here bored?
Are you being totally genuine right now?
I'm being totally genuine. So, listen, possibly a remote toss to your face. Hey, a drive-by smack to the head. maybe, or the arm. Like literally, you would have your back turned watching the show.
You would do that,
and I would kind of creep up on you, and I'd worry back there, and I'd hit you, smack you real hard, or smack you a little hard, and I'd run off.
Right.
I'm like, maybe she'll chase me.
All right.
And then I think one time, I'll say this and I'll let you speak. One time, I was so bored, and you were doing something. You were a lot better with the schoolwork stuff. So maybe you were doing schoolwork. I said, Jennifer, will you please, our oldest sister, will you please go outside and throw a ball with me? I was so bored. And Dad was always money. He was always out there doing it. Jennifer, I had to literally drag her out to the cul-de-sac, and you should have seen her. She had her arms to the side, and she goes, I'm all excited. I'm like, I'm going to throw it to her. She'll be able to catch it and throw it back. And her first words were, I'm hot. I want to go inside. And she was slouched down, and I threw the first ball. She missed it, and of course, it was a cul-de-sac. So behind her was a quarter-mile stretch of open road,
right?
And on that street, and the ball just kept rolling forever and rolling and rolling. And she wasn't about to get it. She goes, you get it. I'm done. I'm going inside. One throw.
One throw.
So yeah, I would literally have to make up reasons to entertain myself and ways to entertain myself. I was total instigator.
You were. I'm so glad. Thank you for fessing up, Mom, Dad. I hope you're listening.
It's like a therapy session.
Because like I said, Mom and Dad weren't there to referee. They weren't there to see what you did to me. So by the time they would get home, I would be in such an emotional state. I remember one time actually in the old house, old house, I remember being so angry and so worked up because of your pestering. I was getting something out of my room. I was reaching under my bed to get something, and I said GD. I was screaming it. Well, I didn't know that Dad was home.
Oh, wow.
And I did it a second time in the other house because Jen was doing the same thing to me. We were standing by the sink and I was pouring myself a drink out of a 2-liter. And for no reason,
This affected you.
Okay, so for no reason, she's washing her hands. She doesn't grab a towel. She flicks her hands in my face. And I had it. Like, that was my breaking point. So I took the 2-liter and I threw it at her. Like, I threw it on her.
Oh, my God.
And then I don't know. I guess I tossed the 2-liter in the sink, ran off to my room crying. And she was like, I'm going to tell Dad. He's home. I'm going to tell him what you did. And I said, I don't give a fuck. And I said that just as Dad literally walked in the door.
And Dad was like, hail to the na-na.
Well, the funny thing is, he walked in with kind of a smile on his face. And then he heard me scream that from another room, and he looked at Jen, and his smile just immediately turned to a frown. He was like, what's... So anyway, my point is, I didn't have a point. I'm just absorbing all of that. You did it on purpose.
This is a therapy session. Can I tell you what would have been really funny that Dad would have done?
Oh, yeah.
Would have been really funny if he would have looked at you and said, where did you learn that word? And you said, from you, all right? I learned it from watching you. It's so funny. But listen, I will tell you, I'm actually grateful. I'm actually grateful that we were in those.
You're such a turd.
Not the fighting and all that stuff. I'm saying, like, as latchkey kids, being latchkey kids and having that circumstance, I'm grateful. I feel like we got to choose our own sort of after school adventures. We were kind of masters of our own domain.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like, but
it did.
Yeah.
It absolutely did.
But I was grateful for it.
Yeah, same, except, like I said, for the fact that I was living with 2 feral beasts.
Right.
Who would pick on me for no reason at all, just to see me cry.
But like I said, I mean, I feel like we had opportunities to get on our bikes and go ride to friends' houses and in the neighborhood, maybe not come home until it got dark. So.
Right. I mean, we didn't come home until the street lights came on. Mm-hmm. And Mom and Dad, once they were home, didn't worry about they're over there. They didn't care where there was.
Right. Like we were like boomerang children. We were going to come back. we were going to come back. Always.
It was a lot of fun. I remember riding our bikes through the neighborhood, meeting up with our friends, and that was a lot of fun.
Well,
I do remember I do remember some of the good stuff.
Yeah. Can I hit you with a term that I've read?
Don't ever hit me again.
Okay. Let me drop some knowledge. Have you ever heard the term dolphin mom?
Dolphin mom?
Dolphin mom. I actually hadn't until yesterday.
No.
So you have the helicopter parent
Yeah.
sort of scenario. The dolphin mom, as I understand it, and I kind of feel like mom is this way. Tell me if you disagree. But it all relates to the latchkey kid stuff. I feel like a dolphin mom, the way I read it, was you were firm. It was kind of like that firm but fair.
Yes.
And you weren't. It was like the opposite of a helicopter parent. Like you wanted your kids to have some level of independence and creativeness.
Yes.
But there was like some restrictions and some boundaries with it.
Yes.
I feel like mom was kind of like that. Would you agree? Like I feel like her parents were very firm but fair.
Yeah, they were assertive.
But they were trusting.
Yeah.
They wanted us to be able to go out and experience things.
They gave us the freedom to screw up, to get hurt.
But I think it almost worked to our benefit. We'll get into that later, but I just feel like she was a dolphin mom. I feel like she was firm but fair.
Yeah.
And she wanted us to experience certain things and create and get creative with people and explore and be independent. But then also she was always good about scaling it back when it made sense to, when it was appropriate. That's a dolphin mom. There's probably another term for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would always, in my mind, categorize our parents as, the assertive parents. You don't want to be too passive. You don't want to be aggressive. Assertive is the sweet spot, and that's where I think mom and dad always were. And I think that that's true for most parents of our generation, because we all experienced, I think, on some level, and some of us were more fortunate than others, obviously had a lot more to deal with when they got home, who actually had to make dinner, who actually had to feed their younger siblings. Yeah. I mean, we had it pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think that the mark of the Gen X kid was to have parents who gave them, well, did the free range parenting kind of thing. It's the opposite of helicopter, where you're, you know, from somewhat of a safe distance, or there's some kind of safety net there. They don't let you, you know, roam completely free, but they do let you, you know, go to other kids' houses. They don't have to meet the parents. They didn't want to meet the parents first. And they didn't, you know, if we got hurt, they comforted us, but you know, what else did we hear? Rub some dirt on it. You're okay. You know, I think that giving us that freedom and allowing us to screw up, to fight our own battles,
That's it.
to get hurt, to
That's
get injured.
I feel like they let us figure it out.
We figure it out.
Figure it out.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I always appreciate
I was
that.
circling that airport.
Yeah,
and
I
you
was
got
trying to
it.
I was trying to land the plane for you.
Yeah, they let us figure it out, and I think we're going to take a break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the benefits of that kind of childhood.
Let's do it. And by the way, just so we're all clear, the term dolphin, I think why that ties into it was it had something to do with the dolphins, like exterior, like dolphin has like a firm body, but there's some softness to it. It was something to that effect.
Well,
that's why they called it Dolphin Mom.
I watch enough ocean documentaries to see the parallels in how the dolphins actually parent.
I gotcha. I just want people to be like, why are they called Dolphin Mom? Like, what's dolphin even about?
They're there, they're present,
Exactly,
but they also
but
give them a wide circle.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna talk about how we're better and worse for being latchkey kids, and then we're gonna brag a little bit about what we can do because of it that our kids cannot.
What? Word.
Sorry, I'm just gonna start. I'm sorry.
You should put his chin back down.
We have had some complications with this episode. Yeah, we started it took us an hour before I could not figure out why Joe's mic was not working.
I'm already ready to defend myself.
And he's getting more and more frustrated with me because he's like, Mary Beth, you really should write this down so you can do it the same way every time. I'm like, it's not it. I'm doing everything the same way. And then after an hour, what happened, Joe?
45 minutes.
After 45 minutes, what happened, Joe?
Okay. I just happened to look down at my mic and it was on the off button instead of the on. But listen, okay.
I wanted to take my chubby fist and punch him in the face.
Fluffy.
My fluffy fist.
Fluffy and happy fist. Now, before I get too defensive, was the green light, was it or was it not on?
His green light was on.
The green light was on the entire time. In fact, it was on before hers came on. So I never thought to look at the button being on the
switch.
off. How would it be green if it was off?
I don't know. That's a mystery to me.
So,
anyway.
My fault, but I kind of not.
And his dog is here, and he's like, I'm getting ready to press record, and he's going, don't make eye contact. Don't look.
Buddy just looked over here. Don't make eye contact.
Don't engage. Don't engage.
He's got his chin in between the couch cushion and the.
He's out.
Oh, so he's good now. He's good.
That's so funny. I just got a kick out of your. Don't make eye contact. Don't look at the dog.
Well, Mary Beth, we're back.
Okay.
I think we can both agree, that we are better off for being latchkey kids.
Oh, for sure.
And experiencing what we did at a young age and being given that freedom to sort of, figure things out. But I think we can also agree that it didn't come without residual consequences.
Oh, for sure. And I'll tell you that I think we're better off in a lot of ways. First of all, it made us a more functional, independent, and resilient people.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. But it also made us just atrocious parents.
Oh, God.
Atrocious.
Don't even get me started.
Guys, the kids today, we have to acknowledge and accept that they are all our fault.
Our fault. It's our issue. We made it happen. We made that issue happen.
And I think that, I've given this a lot of thought long before this podcast. I kind of think that we overcorrected by way of overprotection. So we basically, with the best of intentions, tried to shield our kids from all manner of discomfort and unpleasantness. And so kids and young adults are you know, much less resilient against things like dissent and differing opinions and healthy confrontation and on and on and on. And so it's like the basic concept of over sanitizing at your peril because
well said.
you're going to cripple the body's immunity.
Well said. Yeah, I agree. I think today's parents almost overcompensate for the fact that they were once latchkey kids. It's like their kids are appendages, like sort of extensions of themselves. I see parents today being overly strict and more on the dominant, sort of variety. It's almost as if they act like they want independence for their kids, but they do whatever it takes to remove any and all obstacles that they might face. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah, so even youth sports parents today are the absolute worst of the worst. They won't let their kids, you said dissent. They won't let their kids experience any harm, any bad calls, any bad plays. It's always the coach's fault. It's like they can't let their kids just go through something. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. It's the teacher's fault. It's the coach's fault.
And listen, and I coach at the high school level. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't get better.
Right.
And certainly not calling anyone out specifically, but you don't realize how many parents that I knew when I was in high school or college that were mediocre at best at the sports that they played, that they're now having their kids play, and they are horrible about it towards their kids playing. You know what I mean? Like, they expect perfection, they expect all this stuff, but they won't let their kids go through any struggle. But their kids have to be perfect, but they won't let them go through any struggles. And, so it's that part I really hate. But anyway, I would even say I was guilty of that when my kids were younger playing. But, our old house, mine and your old house, our old house wasn't on a super busy street. There were plenty of other kids to play with outside. But if my kids walked outside by themselves for, I don't know, more than 3 minutes, I started feeling anxious and worried.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that our generation has sort of projected that onto our kids.
Yeah, like, where they at? Where'd they go?
With good intentions, hoping if they know about this and if they know about this danger and that danger, that they will behave accordingly. But all it did was make them anxious and fearful.
Yeah, I mean, like something was going to happen to them.
Right.
They walked out of the garage for 3 minutes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I was panicking.
Yeah.
So what the heck?
I think those are some of the, and I think in the future we should do a whole episode on the difference in parenting then versus now.
Look at us making new episode topics out of this
Yeah.
one. But yeah, I was
so much to say about it.
right. But I was never the parent who needed to cover my kids necessarily like in bubble wrap just to go play.
Right.
Like a bike helmet or knee
Or
pads.
to fight their battles.
Yeah, like a bike helmet or knee pads. No, ma'am. Like, that was not me. But not having them within an eyesight was always kind of tough for me on the inside. I
Right.
never figured that out.
Agreed. Well, I think there are a lot of reasons for it, and we can talk about it at another time. But let's focus on the positive.
Okay.
So we did talk about why we think we're better off, this generation, people we grew up with. I think those out there listening, Gen Xers, you would agree that you feel pretty strong and pretty resilient, and you're good at problem solving and all of those things because you were left to your own devices for a few hours a day.
Superhuman forces of nature.
And so I think we're gonna close this episode out by doing a little brag.
Let's do it.
I think we've earned it.
We've earned our stripes.
I'm going to call this segment, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do
anything better than you.
No, you can.
Yes, I can.
No, you can.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
That is it for all of you non-theater people. That is from Annie Get Your Gun.
Hey, listen, I know we're wrapping up, but can I actually share a funny story?
Sure.
Do you mind? Will you indulge me real quick?
I always want to hear a funny story.
So my precious daughter, Navy. So this goes back to the, kids are like, where'd they go? They've been out of my sight for 30 seconds. Where did they go? What are they doing? I literally one time, her and her mom, I thought went shopping. Okay, so I'm gonna paint the quick picture for you.
Okay.
She was probably 6 or 7. It was like a Saturday, so I didn't have to work. I was sitting there in the living room watching a game or something, and her mom went shopping, and I was 100% sure in my mind that she went with her. So I'm by myself. I think Bryson was somewhere. The boys were somewhere. So I'm like, this is great. I'm just kind of chilling by myself. I was there for at least 2 or 3 hours, just sitting down by myself. Didn't hear a peep out.
Peace and quiet.
Peace and quiet. Now again, after I thought they were gone, I was literally in the living room for at least 2 hours. Might have been 3. I'm enjoying myself. I'm like, you know what? They're going to be gone for a while. I'm going to go get me some McDonald's. So I go to get McDonald's, and it's a great day outside, beautiful weather. Literally, I'm pulling back into the neighborhood. I mean, McDonald's was every bit of 10 minutes away, so another 5 minutes to order, 10 minutes back. So I'm gone for 30 minutes at least. And I'm going to remind you, I was home by myself, in air quotes, for 2 or 3 hours. Didn't hear a peep, didn't hear anything.
I think I know where this is going.
I pull in the neighborhood, and I get a FaceTime from my daughter, who's like 6 or 7 at the time.
Oh, dear.
I was like, well, that's really weird. I thought she was just calling me at the mall or something. So I turned on FaceTime, and her face was like on the Blair Witch when like you see him, like when the camera's like, wait, her eyes were really big, like she just saw a ghost, and she goes, Dad, you left me home alone.
Oh, no.
Mary Beth. So we're talking about like how we grew up with like an empty house by herself for hours, no big deal. I left my child for 15 minutes, and
At least our parents did it deliberately.
Right.
And on purpose.
Right. And I thought she was gone, and I had the worst gut feeling I have ever had in my entire life. I go, sis, I am so sorry. Daddy will be almost home. I'm home in 20 seconds.
Isn't that the worst feeling?
I couldn't believe it. I had left her home, but I did not hear a word from her.
Yeah.
She wasn't asleep. She was in her, just how quiet she was. She was just in her room, not fumbling around or
Making noise.
playing with toys. Like I couldn't hear anything. I just thought I was by myself.
Hey, it happens. You know, if it makes you feel any better, I got called out of a faculty meeting one time because I forgot to pick up my kid from school. So, hey.
Nice. But then I even felt worse because I ordered food just for me and not for her.
Right,
so not only did I leave her alone, I came home without any McDonald's. But you know what I did?
What?
I felt so bad. I put her in my. This is how weak I am. I put her in my car and went back to McDonald's and got her something.
Oh, well, you should have.
So anyway, just want to share that story.
Well, you know, let's not focus on our failures.
My latchkey daughter.
Your latchkey daughter for a half
for
an hour.
half an hour. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Next segment.
So we're gonna focus on the win.
Okay.
All right. So we have each brought forth a list. So both of our kids are inching ever closer to their 20s. And yet, here are some things they cannot do now that we learned to do or mastered by age 10.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. My kids cannot make their own sandwich. I can. I can make my own sandwich.
Long before they...
Long before. Hey, listen, Terry, I'm 9 years old, and she taught me how to put those round tortilla chips. Remember the round ones that you scoop the queso?
Oh, are you
the
talking
old school
about the
ones.
cheese and the salsa and the microwave?
The cheese and the Kobe Jack cheese, and then she would put the little dip of salsa. And you put
I remember that. I remember that lesson.
But I can, yes.
I was there for that lesson.
But I can make that on my own if I wanted to. So anyway, I can make my own sandwich, Mary Beth.
Well, I'm proud of you.
And my kids cannot. I can make my own cereal.
Pour it and everything?
I can get the bowl out. I can put it in front of me. I can get the cereal in there, and I can pour the milk.
And you can find the right utensil
It's
and
amazing.
everything.
And it works, and I can eat it, and it feels good. But I can do that, and they can't.
Right.
I think Navy was like 14. She's like, Dad, can you make me some cereal?
I remember being over at your house and hearing that.
Yeah, I was like, Navy, can we put that down? Like, keep that down. I don't want to.
I heard that.
I was so embarrassed.
I remember hearing that, and I was like, really?
Yeah, I was trying to play that one off. I was like,
What, I don't ever do that for
yeah,
you.
She's just trying to be funny.
Why would you even ask me that?
Yeah, silly. I can close a door to the outside.
Oh, that's not nothing, man.
Listen.
As a latchkey kid, stranger danger was real, man.
Right,
if you didn't
right.
close that door,
We were mindful of that. Now,
not just that. I mean, more than that, I think Dad was more concerned about the electric bill.
from
the air
I'm telling
conditioning.
you how many times I had to close that dang door behind my kids because they just wouldn't do it. Or they couldn't. But I can close a door to the outside. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for letting me be a latchkey kid.
I love how you say they wouldn't or they couldn't. We don't know.
You choose. It's another game for another day. I can eat what my mother or my significant other made me for dinner. My kids, on the other hand,
Cannot do it.
absolutely wouldn't do it or couldn't do it and said, hey, even worse, she would make meatloaf. She would spend hours in the kitchen and our kids would say, can you take me to McDonald's?
Exactly.
What? I could never even in my life imagine asking our parents that.
Never would they.
We've already had an episode where we said we went to McDonald's maybe once or twice a year. It was like a field trip, big deal, special occasion. And my kids were like, it's Wednesday and I don't really want meatloaf. Can you take me to go get some chicken nuggets?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe it. Would never ask that. Anyway.
So funny.
I know how to close a refrigerator.
It is not easy.
Like the whole way. I can actually close it till it's shut.
Yep.
Unreal. I can work a dishwasher.
That's impressive.
And even more impressive, I can work a microwave. My kids can't. Or, or they won't.
Or we don't know.
Dad, can you heat that up for me?
We don't know because we haven't confronted.
Yeah. I said,
did we not teach them?
I said, I would say, just put it in the microwave. They go, for how long? I go, just read the box. Read the package. I had to believe it.
Or hey, go all out. Go great risk. Roll the dice and just try 30 seconds at a time.
Until you feel like it's edible.
Until the temperature suits you.
I mean, no trial and error. No thinking on your feet.
They just can't figure it out.
She just looked at the package. She's like, Dad, can you heat this up for me? How do I do this?
That is so funny.
That's all I had, Mary Beth.
Hey, you know what? I love where your head's at because I have several more than you, but there is some overlap. So I'll just run through mine like rapid fire.
Let's do it.
All right.
I can't wait.
Funny enough, very first one, I know how to wipe the counter off after I make a sandwich.
What a novel concept.
And 2, I can actually make my own sandwich.
See, we think alike. We must be siblings.
I also, you'll be happy to know, before age 10, had mastered the art of using a napkin instead of my clothes.
That used to drive me crazy. I'm like, you literally have a stack of napkins 2 inches from your hand.
Like, they don't get that grease doesn't come out.
And it's always like spaghetti or chili or something like that.
I know how to find the dishwasher.
Good for you.
I also know how to use
it.
a dishwasher.
You can locate it and you can use it.
And even use it. I can find the trash can.
You can?
I can also use a trash can.
Oh my gosh.
I know how to throw my refuse. Into the receptacle.
Okay, that's anal retentive chef Phil Hartman on SNL.
I also, something my kid can't seem to do, I can also empty a trash can. You know, there's this ongoing contest in my home, and the other one is not living with us anymore, but when it was all 4 of us, everybody, including my dear husband, seemed to have this unspoken contest. Let's see how much we can stuff this fucking trash can before Mom loses her mind and finally empties it.
And so much where you can't even like tie it together.
Good
like,
Lord.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Why would you do it?
Or to someone else?
Oh my God. And so I got to the point where I took that personally. I was like, that is just a discourtesy meant to piss me off. Like, let's just wait until Mom does it.
That can be the only explanation.
I know.
Hey, we got to do our tradition. Every time you mention your husband, shouts out to Josh.
Shouts out to Joshy.
Shouts out to Josh.
Let's see. I can change a light bulb. I do it all the time.
How many Mary Beths does it take to change a light bulb?
Apparently
just one.
Just one. How many kids does it take to change a light bulb? We'll never know.
Who knows?
Because I have never seen her do it.
We'll have to have a podcast on that.
I also know how to turn off a light.
Oh, yeah.
You know, kids these days, they have to turn the light on in every room they enter. And then when they leave, they just leave.
Right.
They don't know how to turn it off, but I can turn off a light. I know how to clean up a spill. You know that I don't know how many times I saw a wet spill. A spill that was wet. You know, something's dry, you get a broom. But when it's wet and it's on carpet or upholstery, and those kids reach for a dry towel.
Even worse, a dry decorative towel.
Every mother on earth cringes inside.
Or even worse than that, a dry decorative, like beige colored or white towel.
And you know what? It just never mattered how many times I explained how to clean up a spill. They never got the hang of it or just refused to do it. We'll never know. But
even worse than that. The decorative light colored towel, and then it would always end up in my sink.
Right.
This wasn't a wet rag. This was a dry, decorative, white or beige colored towel.
That's now covered in SpaghettiOs.
Or like red Kool-Aid, and it would be in my sink, crumbled up in my sink. Unbelievable.
I know how to, speaking of sinks, I know how to clean one of those.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I also know how to clean my room.
I do as well.
I can also clean a toilet. I look forward to the day when I visit my daughter's house. I can't wait to see how clean and crisp everything is, because apparently she doesn't know how to do any of that.
I can't wait to see you be judgmental over it.
I'm going to be so judgmental.
Oh, I am too. Oh, I'm gonna. Oh, I'm gonna.
I know how to separate loads of laundry into colors and whites and delicates. I also know how to start a load of laundry.
Okay.
I can also finish a load of laundry. Now, see, when my kids got to the age where, well, I kind of went on strike. Okay, I say once your kids hit puberty, it is no longer in my best interest to peel their skivvies from their pants. Because, you know, I'm sure your kids, like my kids, still undress like they're 3.5. So every sleeve, every pant leg is inside out, and every sock is bunched. And I'm like, I'm sorry. After a double header, I'm not touching your fucking sock.
A double header.
I'm sorry, but after volleyball practice, when you have swamp ass, I'm not peeling your panties from your shorts.
Blech.
Everything was inside out, so I stopped. So then they finally would just throw everything in there and just press start, and they'd make it to the dryer, but it would sit in the dryer for 2 weeks.
Ugh, so annoying.
So annoying. I know how to fold a towel. I've never seen my child do it.
I've never seen my child do it correctly if I made them do it. But I can also fold a towel. We must be from the same generation.
I know. I can cut my meat with a fork and
That's
knife.
what she said. I can as well.
Fairly recently.
I remember Dad showing me how to do that.
Fairly recently, I had to show Mallory how to do it. I'm like, didn't you take home ec? Like for 2 years? And
They still have home ec?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hand her the plate of the chicken that I just cooked. I'm like, can you please like shred this a little bit? And she was
Like grabbing it with her hand and
yeah,
stuff?
like putting the fork just haphazardly into the, and she was going in all different directions. I'm like, honey.
She was dissecting a frog.
I mean, I could cut my meat properly.
Yeah, I remember Dad showing me how to do that, actually.
When I was a kid. I can name the months of the year in order.
Impressive. Impressive.
I'm more and more embarrassed as this list goes on because my kid...
Yeah, but can you write cursive? Because guess what? Our kids can't.
My kids cannot.
Hey, will you sign that? And they like print their name. What the hell?
No. Not only can I name the months of the year in the correct order, I can name all the months.
Oh my God. You're so smart.
Okay, nothing against Mallory. I'm sure she can name all the months. I was just being silly.
Yep.
I can also memorize a phone number like nobody's business.
I've seen that actually when we were researching this topic. That kids don't have to do that. They don't have to remember phone numbers.
They don't have to remember anything.
Nothing.
We had a whole Rolodex in our head.
We had a Rolodex in our head. I think once speed dial became a thing, I don't even remember how to use that. I don't know if I ever did. But speed dial kind of got a little bit away from that. A little bit.
Yeah.
But now they don't have to remember anybody's
I know.
number.
Like if they get stranded without their cell phone.
Nothing.
Be like, here, use my phone. Call your dad.
Awful.
I can memorize a phone number though.
I can too. I can memorize a
And
bunch.
finally, I can follow a map that isn't voice narrated.
Printed map. Like the map, like we talked about before, like in one of the other episodes, the map that like spanned across your whole dashboard.
I can actually read a map and follow it without Nigel speaking to me. Turn on Lexington Boulevard.
Nigel. Yeah.
We call him Nigel.
Yeah, I had a college fraternity brother and I that traveled to Maine from here without a map.
Really?
Without a map.
Simply reading road signs.
Because we were latchkey kids. and we were taught to, we were taught to figure shit out. And we thought, okay, we need to go at least north and then east at some point.
I just pictured Mom and Dad leaving the house, leaving us alone, going, hey, one day you'll thank us, kids. You'll be able to drive to Maine without a map.
And we did. We went north and east until we ran into Maine.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Awesome. But Mary Beth, listen, there was one that you didn't even, there's one that you didn't mention. If I ever asked my kids to vacuum something, you would have thought we were asking them to oversee NASA's Artemis missions during journeys to the moon and back.
Hey, I learned a similar lesson the first time I asked my stepson to mow the yard.
See, my kids like doing it.
Oh,
Like they
oh,
they
oh.
offered to do that.
Oh, no. I got a phone call from the husband who got a phone call from the ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
I learned my lesson early on.
Okay.
We don't ask him to do chores at all.
At all. Okay. Now my kids always like beg me to like get on the mower.
Yeah, I was out running errands and I had left a note like,
Yeah.
can you please do this after you eat breakfast?
But I thought you'd like that. I mean, they literally thought I was asking them to do like mission control for NASA. To, like,
Right.
I'm like, no, you just press this button and you push it until the stuff comes off the floor.
And it sucks things, much like you do.
Yeah, and then of course you always got, ugh, oh my God.
Oh, so funny. Well, hey, I've had a good time.
I've had a great time.
As per usual.
Yeah, as per usual.
Well, hey, I want to remind everybody that our website is, take it away.
It is thebestofgenx.buzzsprout.com.
Yes, and our email is thebestofgenx@gmail.com. Reach out, give us some feedback, give us some show ideas. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast.
Yeah.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and share.
Please do it. We love when you do.
Okay. Joe, so much fun.
True.
Until next time,
We'll see you guys.
peace.